Right, very good afternoon to our parents here. I think I'm a parent myself, so it's very heartening to see that many of you are very interested in helping your child make the best choices as they transit from primary school to secondary school. But I think you also agree with me that as so many choices, there's so many choices in terms of the educational options, the kind of schools, the strengths that they have. And I think what we are trying to do today is to share with you the options available out there and what's the difference really between all of them. So I think to start off, it's good to have this big picture thing first, to look at what happens after primary 6. So basically at the bottom of that chart, you can see at the end of primary 6, all the primary school pupils will take the PSLE. But what happens after that is there are various ways to go into secondary school. All right, I'll touch very quickly on this thing called the DSA, or direct school admission. The direct school admission is really based on the strength of the school when they look up for specific talent or kids who really have an interest, a passion for a particular area, and it is aligned with the strength of the school, they will accept them via direct school admission. All right? This can take place even before the PSLE. But if you're not sure, or your child is not sure at that point in time before the PSLE what they really want, it's okay, go through the PSLE. After that, you have the Sec 1 posting exercise where they have 6 options, 6 secondary schools where they can choose from, depending on the various considerations that my colleague Beatrice will touch on later. So you can see, then once you proceed past the admission phase, you see that there are various schools available. In the MOE lingo, all right, we have terms like government schools, government-aided schools, specialized independent schools, and privately funded schools. These are the big categories of schools available. Let me touch on very quickly what the difference is. Let me start with the government schools and the government-aided schools. There are 4 different areas there you can look at. The first is known as an autonomous school. All right, as the term autonomous imply, they have relatively more freedom or more scope to design different curriculum, different programs to stretch the students in different areas. So I give 2 examples there. One of them, of course, is Dunman Secondary. So Beatrice can share even more examples later on with you as to what autonomous schools can offer in terms of programs. The other example I'll give from the West is Bukit Panjang Government High School. Next, we have the independent schools, and I think this would be pretty familiar to most of you. When you think of schools in the newspapers or you hear from friends, some of these names are quite familiar to you. Names like RI, Raffles Institution, or the Methodist Girls' Schools. Perhaps some of these are very familiar because they've been around for a very long time. Again, they have their own ethos, their own philosophy of education, and because of that strength and established reputation over the years, they are independent in offering the kind of curriculum and programs. On the next 2 sectors, you will see niche program schools. All right, what we realize is that in the education system, when you talk about 500,000 kids, 500,000 students, they all have very different interests and strengths. So as schools, we also need to be able to provide for all these very varied interests. So niche program schools have been established, all right, since maybe 10 years ago, where we have many schools coming up with different special areas that they're strong in. So the 2 examples I give there, just again to show you the spectrum. We have Deyi Secondary School that has a niche in performing arts. So if a child loves to dance or play music or do something to do with the performing arts, they can consider Deyi Secondary School. The other one is Unity Secondary School, also in the West, that is strong in basketball. So in the area of sports, uniform groups, performing arts, and so on, there are schools that have these special programs to develop them. Lastly, you have the Special Assistance Plan, or SAP schools. All right? These schools are established mainly because of their strength in bicultural programs. So besides focusing on English, which all schools offer and will do, these schools also have the culture and the history to also focus on the mother tongue languages and the mother tongue culture. Sorry. Some of you may have heard of this term through train. All right, through train, all right, in the MOE lingo again, we call it the integrated program. Basically what happens is that we have students that have the capacity or clearly marked for a JC education and going on to university. That means you already know your child has the potential, has the ability in terms of the core curriculum, the core subjects, English, maths, science, and so on, to go on to university, then it is worth considering whether he really needs to take the O-level examinations. If he doesn't, then maybe you can help him consider the integrated program schools. So you can see here, the IP schools, again, there are many, many different forms of IP programs available now. So depending on your own preferences, the strengths of your child, you can consider schools like RIRGS, the Hwa Chong schools, Nanyang Girls, Dunman High. We also have another set of schools offered by the JCs, National JC, Temasek JC, and Victoria JC. Although changes are being made along the way, but largely these are the schools that offer it. We also have very specialized schools. All right, so if a child is very strong in maths and science, he or she can consider the NUS High School of Maths and Science. And of course, you have the School of the Arts, which allows a child to go and take the International Baccalaureate program at year 6, after 6 years of education in the school. Specialized independent schools are schools that are specifically earmarked to groom talents in very specific areas. So you can see just one glance, there are different areas being covered. I've mentioned the Maths and Science High School. I've also talked a little bit about School of the Arts, SOTA. And then there's the Singapore Sports School that I think many of you would have heard of. And then lastly, I think one of the newer schools, the School of Science and Technology. All right, in fact, this is a school that I'm familiar with, and I know they use a lot of ICT to facilitate learning. In fact, I think all of them hold a MacBook, for learning in the school. So these are just examples of the choices that are available today. Lastly, just to show you, even within any school, all right, even if you don't see that, oh, it's a School of the Arts or it's not a Maths and Science High School, within the school, many of our schools also offer different programs. Okay, we call it programs because there are different areas that we want to give in terms of choices, in terms of flexibility to the pupils. So just a glance of it to show you in the area of language, for example, you have a bicultural studies program, you have the elective programs in Malay language, you have the special programs, the MSP and CSP, and lastly, the art and music elective program. So basically, once you're able to determine the strength of your child and the interest of your child, it is about finding a school that matches that area.
Okay, good afternoon, parents. And I noticed there are quite a number of boys and girls in the room as well. And I want to thank Mr. Ong for giving us a very quick overview of the changing educational landscape. Indeed, it is very diverse, and there are so many school types, as well as different ways to recognize talents. For example, admission via the direct school admission route. But of late, we have also been hearing about multiple pathways and about the need for holistic education. I was just wondering whether Mr. Ong can give us a further sense of how schools are going about developing our child in a holistic way.
Okay, I think when you hear me talking about the various schools, I'm not touched on the curriculum or the focus of the curriculum today. The one diagram I want to show you is this one. Okay, it looks very complicated, but all you have to do is to look at the center diagram. All right, there's a few circles out there, starting from the center. All right, this is what we call the 21st century model for developing students. We have desired outcomes in there. We have the competencies, skills, and values. At the center of it, the yellow circle are the core values. I think that reflects the emphasis of education today. Our Minister for Education, Mr. Heng Swee Keat, has spoken extensively on this area, that today's education is not about passing exams, it's not like getting 8 distinctions or 9 distinctions, but it's about developing students who are ready for the 21st century. And the 21st century is an unknown. We don't know what kind of jobs will be available. We don't know what kind of skills and knowledge our kids will need to have. So to help them anchor themselves to be ready, to be adaptable, flexible, to be able to think on their feet, we start with this thing. All right? At the center of it, the core values, followed by what we call the social emotional competencies, which allows them to manage themselves, work with other people, and to make responsible decisions. Following that, you have what we call the 21st century literacies. That means skills like communication skills, collaboration skills, cross-cultural skills, global awareness. One of the things I tell my own students in my school is that don't think of working in Singapore when you graduate. You know, you think of the world as your workplace. You could be working anywhere in the world. It's not just about, okay, I work at the company nearest my home so I can travel a short distance. You may be flying off to different countries for different jobs. So with that, the curriculum itself is therefore designed to support the development of 21st century competencies and skills. It is not about passing exams. So again, right at the center in this curriculum diagram is this thing called life skills. We start with building life skills. With the life skills you have, you can take on any new subject or new area and be able to cope with it. So how do we do that? We develop life skills through programs like CCA. I think that is very familiar to most of you. The next one, CIP, you also heard about it mentioned just earlier in March, where Minister said that it will be reframed as values in action. It's about using your hands to serve the community and in the process of it, build values and character. CME, Civics and Moral Education. PCCG, Pastoral Care and Career Guidance, about helping to make decisions for your future, to plan and set goals for yourself. National Education, NE, and lastly, PE. So many students, I know, I encounter students and they think that PE is a very tiring subject. They don't like to go into the sun, they don't like to run around, but I think there is a purpose to it. Okay, so those are life skills, to build resilience, to build character, to build leadership, followed by knowledge skills. Knowledge skills are like creative thinking, critical thinking, you know, being able to make decisions, infer, deduce, all right, that we do through project work. After that, only after that, we begin to look at all the other academic subjects. You have your languages, maths and sciences, humanities and the arts. And that's the one I'm going to spend the least time talking about. The point is that when I showed you that the curriculum, you actually saw 3 circles. The fact remains that we currently have 3 different pathways in the secondary school. There's the express stream, there's the normal academic stream, and there's the normal technical stream. My advice to parents, because I have parents who appeal to me, they say, oh, my child is currently normal technical, can I shift him to the normal academic? And similarly, from normal academic to express. They ask me whether I can give a chance or let them try. I say the flexibility is always there, but your child must first be able to learn at his or her own pace based on his or her learning style, because there's no point trying to force fit them into something they're not ready for. In fact, they will feel demoralized when they're not able to cope. So what happens is that we realize that some are late developers, some people take a little longer, some learn a bit differently, but opportunities will always be there. So since 2006, these are things that have been provided. If you're in a normal academic stream today, it doesn't mean you only take normal academic subjects. We have allowed students to offer O-level subjects as well, such as maths, mother tongue, and other subjects. So in my school, for example, in the normal academic stream, I have one class where they offer O-level mathematics, and for those who are strong in mother tongue, also O-level mother tongue. That allows them to move on to Sec 5 to offer the O-levels with less stress and have more time to prepare for the other subjects. We also have normal technical students who also offer NA subjects. These are the ones, some of them, in fact, display certain strengths in 1 or 2 subjects, but they know they are not strong in every subject. So these are the ones where, again, we give them opportunities to try and stretch themselves, fulfill their potential in some of these key areas. Talking about differences in learning styles, we realize that not all of us learn the same way. So for myself, I prefer to use my hands. I'm also a very visual person. I cannot just listen to a lecture. So for me, I will learn very differently. And similarly with the children that we have in all our schools, they learn very differently, and there are programs to support them, such as the elective modules and the advanced elective modules. Some of these modules, in fact, are developed in collaboration with the polytechnics, with a view to allow them to transit to a polytechnic after they finish secondary school. The revised NT curriculum also is about that. It's not about asking them to do the same thing as your express students, but just do less of it. It is not about that. It's again catering to their needs, their learning styles, and their interests. The pathways is the last thing I'll just mention very quickly. Even if you're in any particular stream, it doesn't mean that all the doors are shut for the other streams. You still have a chance to go on to a JC, to a poly, or even to ITE, wherever stream you are. So for example, in my school, we have NA students who eventually make it to a JC because of their perseverance, because they have the time to develop themselves, to mature, and to prepare for the exams. So this is a diagram just to show you. All the arrows, you don't worry about trying to figure out what are in the boxes. The boxes are basically all the 4 levels, all the 3 streams. The arrows are just to make the point that at almost every point, there is a chance for your child to transit to a more demanding or a less demanding academic stream. Okay, opportunities will always be there. So even for those who appeal at Sec 1, I always advise the parents, no rush. Use the Sec 1 to pick up, to catch up. If they are good, Sec 2, I give them the chance. Just to show you very quickly, again, not to spend too much time elaborating, options are again available. It continues beyond secondary school. Many flexible choices are there after the N levels and the O levels to go to a JC, a polytechnic, and the ITE. Just want to point to you that arrow between ITE and polytechnic. There's this arrow there, which many parents and students are not aware of. They feel that if I go to ITE, that's all. I get a NITEC or a higher NITEC certificate and I have to go to work. But that's not true. In fact, a significant number are making their way from the ITE to the polytechnic. In fact, the ITE courses are now designed to align with the polytechnic courses. This again just to elaborate what it looks like. Okay, some of these things are actually coming on stream only next year, but I think it's good news for many of our students in the schools. For example, when they take the normal academic exams, the NA, and they finish their 4 years in the school, they may not have to go to Sec 5 in order to make it into a JC or to a poly. So here you can see here the 1-year foundation program is an example, where even after N-level exams, they have the option to go to a polytechnic. Okay, the other one, which is already in place, is the 2-year direct entry scheme to a higher NITEC. Again, my advice to parents is that if you know your child is a hands-on learner, prefers to be out there doing internships, attachments to companies, and maybe even have the option to go out to work earlier, he can consider the higher NITEC scheme.